It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story.
Please, order in the hall.
A walkout at the UN as Israel's prime minister hits out at world leaders who have recognized a Palestinian state.
Your disgraceful decision will encourage terrorism against Jews and against innocent people everywhere. It will be a mark of shame on all of you.
Meanwhile, President Trump says a deal on Gaza is very close. Also tonight, Elon Musk is named in files relating to Jeffrey Epstein released by Democrats in the United States. Hackers who say they've stolen information about thousands of children from a chain of nurseries tell Sky News they feel no remorse. Keir Starmer says Labour is locked in a battle with reform for the soul of the country as he confirms plans for compulsory digital ID cards. Plus, supporters celebrate as a terror charge against Kneecap rapper Mo Chara is thrown out of court. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. Israel's prime minister has told world leaders that the recognition of a Palestinian state by countries including the UK is disgraceful and sheer madness. Benjamin Netanyahu told the UN General Assembly in New York that Israel will continue its military operation in Gaza, warning Hamas to lay down its arms and release Israeli hostages immediately. But just after he spoke, President Trump suggested that a deal to end the fighting is very close. Our international affairs editor Dominic Waghorn reports now from New York.
It is now an annual UN ritual. The Israeli Prime Minister takes to the stage to a mass walkout of delegates.
Please, order in the hall.
Then a defiant speech with trademark props. This time, though, a note of triumphalism.
Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, gone.
One by one, Benjamin Netanyahu crossing out his enemies, destroyed or degraded in the year since he last stood here.
The Assad regime in Syria, gone.
And outside, thousands took to the streets, condemning Netanyahu's war in Gaza, in a week that saw yet more countries recognise the state of Palestine. That provoked Netanyahu's sharpest denunciation.
Here's another message to those Western leaders. Israel will not allow you to shove a terror state down our throats. We will not commit national suicide because you don't have the guts to face down a hostile media and anti-Semitic mobs demanding Israel's blood.
Despite his defiance here, Benjamin Netanyahu is under mounting pressure to wind up his war in Gaza, not least because Donald Trump has been told by Arab and Muslim nations here that one of his most important foreign policy achievements is in jeopardy if the conflict goes on. As soon as Netanyahu's speech was over, President Trump appeared to put pressure on him by talking up the chances of a breakthrough over Gaza.
It's looking like we have a deal on Gaza, and we'll let you know. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal it's going to be peace. I think we have a deal.
The normalisation between Arab countries and Israel during Trump's first term in office could unravel, the president's been warned. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has told Sky News a consensus is building that Israel's actions in Gaza are genocidal and must come to an end.
You can go after terrorists with targeted strikes, but there is no justification for entire civilian populations, tens of thousands of women and children being killed by military operations. This is clearly an attempt to make Gaza unlivable for the people of Gaza, for the Palestinians, and to my mind, that meets the definition of a genocide.
The more Jews the terrorists slay, the more the Palestinian Authority pays.
Netanyahu's speech was relayed to the people of Gaza by speakers and Gazans' mobile phones that were hacked by Israeli intelligence to broadcast it. But much of that will have been drowned out by the sound of Israel's latest assault on Gaza City. Israel's own commanders have questioned what this latest offensive can achieve. It may be on borrowed time now, unless their Prime Minister can persuade Donald Trump otherwise. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, New York.
Well, our U.S. correspondent Mark Stone joins me live now from New York. Mark, President Trump suggesting there that a deal for Gaza may be close, but we have been here before, haven't we?
Yeah, many times. That said, I do feel that there is a momentum now that perhaps we haven't felt before. He met with Arab leaders, other Muslim-majority countries this week here in New York. It feels as though something is a little bit different. That said, I would also add that two things appear to be missing from the news this week, from that momentum. One is Israel. We have not heard directly from the Israelis about what they think. I mean, Netanyahu didn't reference any deal or peace proposal today in his speech, and we haven't heard from Hamas either. Certainly not from the military wing of Hamas still based in Gaza. Are they, as Donald Trump has insisted, prepared to release all the hostages in one go? We simply do not know at the moment. So while there is a degree of confidence, I think it is still the case that, as you say, we have been here before. I was struck listening to Benjamin Netanyahu. He had the podium, he had the stage, he had the room, but it was an empty room. He is more isolated. Israel is more isolated than it has been perhaps ever before. He made the case for what Israel has done regionally in terms of taking out what he and many Western countries would see as a malign influence across the region, whether it be Hezbollah in Lebanon, whether it be the Houthis in Yemen, or indeed Iran itself. What he did not recognize is that two things can be true at the same time, that military action by Israel may be seen as actually quite helpful by some Western nations, but it is also the case, and it can also be true, that what Israel has been doing in Gaza amounts, as many people have argued and many nations now believe, amounts to a genocide. And I suppose the question, which many diplomats have put to me over the course of the past week and long before, is if Israel can be so pinstrike with its attacks on other countries and other terror networks, as it would see it, around the region, then why was it not able to do that in Gaza as well?
Mark Stone with the latest on all those developments in New York. Mark, thank you. Elon Musk's name has appeared in files relating to Jeffrey Epstein, with reference to the tech billionaire potentially visiting the island owned by Epstein. The Duke of York has also been named as a passenger on Epstein's private jet in the documents released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee in the United States. Our U.S. correspondent David Blevins has more on this from Washington.
Well, the Epstein estate has been gradually handing over documents to an oversight committee on Capitol Hill, and it is the latest batch of those documents that appear to suggest Elon Musk may have been a visitor to Epstein Island on December 6, 2014. An entry in what appears to be Epstein's daily schedule reads, "Reminder, Elon Musk to Island, December 6. Is this still happening?" December 6, 2014, of course, is 6 years after Jeffrey Epstein was listed as a sex offender. We've reached out to Elon Musk for comment. He's not just the world's most wealthy man. He was, of course, a very prominent player in the early days of the Trump administration, leading the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, until the two men had a very public falling out in June, when you may recall Elon Musk alleged online that the administration was concealing the files and that Donald Trump was named in them. He later deleted that post, and after 3 months of estrangement, the two men were pictured together for the first time at the funeral of Charlie Kirk last weekend. The documents also show Prince Andrew listed as a passenger on Epstein's jet in May 2000. It's not the first time we've heard that. During the trial of Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, one of her accusers, who was 14 at the time, recalled being a passenger on that jet with Andrew. The Duke of York strenuously denies any wrongdoing.
Hackers who claim to have stolen the personal data of thousands of children in a cyber attack have told Sky News they feel no remorse. The group, calling itself Radiant, has released personal information about children and staff at the kiddo nursery chain, demanding a ransom from the company. Sky's Anjum Pierbakos reports.
The fact that it involves children doesn't influence anything. The chilling words from hackers speaking to Sky News. They went on to say that they have acquired the data of 8,000 children and an estimated 21,000 adults. With a cold and stark reminder, remember, it's entire families. At this kiddo nursery in London, parents were understandably concerned.
It is worrying, just in this day and age. You just want to make sure your child is safe and no one comes looking for them or in a malicious way.
The hackers scraped personal data. It included children's personal details with photos in addition to parental contacts and their places of work. Hours after Sky News first made contact, the hackers released more personal data, personal information about staff, including their home addresses and national insurance numbers. Experts say hackers are counting on the alarm being felt by parents and the company.
So this is a giant scare, fear-based bluff, and we need to hold our nerve. Really upsetting though it must be for parents, but it isn't every parent's worst nightmare, thankfully, and that's why we must not panic and we must hold our nerve.
But the hackers told us, unless kiddo nurseries pay the ransom, things will only get worse, as they made their motive clear. Money and money only. We have no motivations in terms of anything but money. Kiddo nurseries have not responded to multiple requests from Sky News for a comment, but we understand no money has been paid. The government says it's determined to find those responsible.
In order to get through this particular difficulty, and we'll be having the same approach to any business or any organisation who's infiltrated in this way, but this organised criminality there'll be no stone left unturned in terms of dealing with it.
This cyber attack scored criminals a treasure trove of information on children, their families and staff. The hackers told Sky News in no uncertain terms, this information is still up for grabs. Anjum Bakos, Sky News.
The Prime Minister says there's a battle for the soul of the country between Labour and Reform UK. Sir Keir Starmer made the comments as he laid out plans for new compulsory digital ID cards aimed at tackling illegal migration. Earlier, a seat-by-seat YouGov poll suggested that Reform leader Nigel Farage would become Prime Minister if an election was held tomorrow. Our political correspondent Rob Powell reports.
Both anger and apathy in London a fortnight ago. The many here marching for a range of reasons, but joined in a sense of despair about the state of the country. Set against that, and with another party now seizing on those feelings, this Prime Minister at a conference of left-leaning politicians trying to fight back.
For too many years, it's been too easy for people to come here, slip into the shadow economy and remain here illegally. Because frankly, we've been squeamish about saying things that are clearly true. And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work.
Stored on a smartphone and set to be rolled out by 2029, the government hopes a digital ID scheme will make it harder to work illegally. Critics accuse it of being an infringement on fundamental freedoms, while others say it simply won't work. Back at the conference and flanked by other prime ministers of a similar political ilk, Sir Keir Starmer trying to weave this plan into a broader attack against his rivals on the right.
Now we face a very different proposition with Reform and Nigel Farage, and so the battle of our times is between patriotic national renewal versus something which is turning into a toxic divide. So there's a battle for the soul of this country now as to what sort of country do we want to be.
From his overseas allies, plenty of advice.
The reality of what you inherited, going 15 years without real wages, without people getting ahead. So you've got to deliver real wage growth first and foremost.
People vote for you to govern, to make difficult decisions. They don't want to always hear that everything you're doing is easy.
For this faithful crowd, some hard truths.
So Keir Starmer is among friends here, railing against parties that thrive off grievance with other centre-left leaders. But his challenge is doing, not just saying. The hope is that digital ID will help with illegal immigration, but it won't be a full fix. And this is a Prime Minister with plenty more problems piling up. No surprise, this man is top of that pile, with a new poll suggesting Nigel Farage could be Prime Minister come the next election.
I don't think there are many votes in what you call the centre anymore. I mean, because of the state our country's in, people are looking for more radical changes. So, steady as she goes politics isn't going to attract much support.
Meeting his Canadian counterpart one-on-one, Sir Keir Starmer knows that fight won't be won in conference centres. Delivering the change that's much promised, likely the key to success, even survival. Rob Powell, Sky News in Westminster.
Thousands of people gathered outside hotels housing asylum seekers up and down the country this summer. And Sky News has spent weeks talking to those on either side of the debate. Our North of England correspondent, Caterina Vitozzi, has already spoken to anti-migrant protesters. Now she meets the counter-demonstrators who believe the anger is being aimed in the wrong place, and a warning that her report contains material some people may find upsetting.
We're in Leeds, outside the Britannia Hotel, which houses 200 male asylum seekers. Protests against them being here began in August under the slogan, "Protect our kids."
We shouldn't have to do this, should we? We shouldn't have that much hatred on that side of the road against people who live on this side of the road. I was also foster carer for a young refugee for 5 years, and he's brought so much to my life and our lives. I want to make sure other people feel the welcome that he gave us and we gave him.
I think one issue you will hear a lot from people on that side is about rates of crime and concerns and fears of sexual assaults.
But that again, that is completely distorted. My foster son, for example, helped his fellow students out magnificently. Now, this thought would say, he's a bad person. It's a myth. It's a myth, and it's being stirred up to make the situation far more polarised than it needs to be.
Oh, wow, look at this.
Oh, please.
Oh, no, I'm fine, thank you.
No,
but
you should.
Are these for both sides?
Yes, we've offered them to both sides. It's for all.
Yeah.
And a sense of peace in the midst of rising tensions. I was last here 3 weeks ago, and I think it probably the abuse that I've got today is more than I had 3 weeks ago.
To have verbal abuse when you are someone who I guess presents as impartial, is that quite shocking?
I don't think wearing a dog collar exempts you from abuse. I think part of it is if you stand alongside those who are being dehumanised, those who are being degraded, those who are regarded as the least, then you can expect to share in some of the same treatment.
Refugees are welcome.
Well, maybe you should have that one on your film.
What's that one? I can't believe I still have to protest this. Well, I'm not sure we can put that on the news, but we can give it a go.
A few days later, we're at Sally's house. We'd hoped to meet Hussein, her foster son, who fled to the UK from Iran when he was 15, but he isn't here.
We were hoping we might be able to meet him today, but that's not been possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of racism around and kids are scared. That's the tragedy of it. Somebody who was very, very open on camera a few years ago is now worried, and for obvious reasons. The amount of hatred on social media is awful towards refugees, even though he's now got status.
You were his foster mum. That must be a very painful position.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We sat and watched the TV the other night where Farage was talking about deporting Afghan women, and I just think, what's going on? What is going on? Why have we got ourselves into this situation where people who desperately want to contribute to modern society are scared to meet people like you?
It's Friday night, and we're back in Leeds, outside the Britannia Hotel. Amongst the counter-protesters, we spot Sally Kincaid's partner, Steve.
Can I ask you just about the language that you hear from this side? You know, chants of Nazi scum, fascist scum off our streets. Is that risk? Does that risk polarising a situation, inflaming it even more?
There are people over there that are clearly members of fascist organisations.
But there are some who won't be.
There's some who won't be, no. But by doing those sort of chants, we hope people will go away and think about, well, why are they calling us Nazis? You know, people have stopped the rise of fascism by calling it out for what it is.
Let's in every refugee!
We've spent weeks speaking to protesters on both sides, and we found stark divisions in our communities. But ironically, everyone seems to agree on one thing, that successive and current governments have got policies around illegal migration wrong. There are those who feel ignored, others who believe extreme views have been emboldened. And whilst we meet some trying to find common ground, the majority here aren't looking for consensus. They want their side to win. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News, West Yorkshire.
A terror charge against the Kneecap rapper Liam Ohana has been thrown out by a court. The Irish musician, who performs under the name Mo Chara, was accused of displaying a flag in support of the proscribed terror organisation Hezbollah at a gig last year. But today, a judge threw out the case because of a technical error in the way that he was charged. Sky's Katie Spencer reports.
Vocal in their opposition, supporters came, as they've done throughout this case, to stand in solidarity with a rapper they felt should never have been prosecuted.
Out of the way! Keep clear, please! Let them...
Walking into court, the members of Kneecap, no strangers to controversy or big crowds, their fans familiar with their use of balaclavas, a nod to their West Belfast roots. But the terror charge against Liam Ohana, brought in May, was serious, that he'd allegedly displayed a banned Hezbollah flag at a gig last November. Outside, they stood by as inside his lawyers waited to hear if the judge agreed the case should be thrown out on a technicality. They'd argued there'd been a legal mistake with the way the charge was brought. A magistrate concluding, "I find these proceedings were not instituted in the correct form, lacking the necessary Director of Public Prosecution and Attorney General consent within the 6-month statutory time limit. Consequently, the charge is unlawful and null, and this court has no jurisdiction to try the charge." Celebrations here outside of court from those who've been keen to support the rapper from the very beginning. His lawyers arguing today that this should be seen as a victory for free speech. Ohana has always denied the charge, believing his prosecution to be political, claiming that speaking out on the situation in Gaza on social media and on stage at their gigs has made Kneecap an enemy of the establishment.
This entire process was never about me. Never about any threat to the public, never about terrorism, a word used by your government to discredit people you oppress. It was always about Gaza, about what happens if you dare to speak up.
On Northern Ireland's First Minister Michelle O'Neill said she strongly welcomes the case being dismissed. The Crown Prosecution Service has said it's reviewing the decision of the court carefully. While it's pointed out that the decision could be appealed, the errors made for the CPS are embarrassing. The band adamant that this case should never have been brought, on social media celebrating a victory of sorts. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
The war in Darfur never ended. It only intensified and spread across the country. Villages have been burnt and abandoned again and again in Western Sudan.
Apologies for that. Let's bring you more on Sudan. As I was saying, an intelligence officer there has told Sky News that the United Arab Emirates is backing one of the warring sides in the conflict, the Rapid Support Forces, with sophisticated weapons. Efforts to end the almost 2.5-year-long war have stalled. The country is now controlled between RSF and Sudanese armed forces. Our Africa correspondent Yusra El-Baghir reports now from North Darfur.
The war in Darfur never ended. it only intensified and spread across the country. Villages have been burnt and abandoned again and again in Western Sudan. From over 2 decades of terror by the tribal militia-turned-paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces. We went to one of the remaining state-held towns in North Darfur. There's a nervous calm. The market squares are full of former rebels who've aligned with the state to fight the RSF and see everyone as a potential threat. We're in the heart of a town called Umboro, which is held by state-aligned forces. But there is still a sense of fear and paralysis about whether the RSF could strike at any moment. The RSF has a sprawling network of formal soldiers and foreign mercenaries, but also of informants and collaborators. These fighters are the kings of this hill. In the early 2000s, they were the rebels, but not anymore. Now the Sudanese army uses them to fight a common enemy, the RSF. We went to meet an intelligence commander outside one of their key strongholds.
Our right to the land means we have to fight until our last breath.
Who is supplying these arms to the RSF?
According to our sources, the weapons come from the UAE. Chad is just a corridor for these arms to reach Sudan. Chad's Adre crossing was opened by the Sudanese government for humanitarian access, but the RSF have used it for inhumanity. That is where a majority of the arms are smuggled across.
According to his intelligence, supplies travel from Chad through the Adre crossing into RSF-held West Darfur. The Adre crossing is only one of 3 smuggling corridors the commander says passes through Chad. And further north, he describes RSF arms and supplies arriving at Chad's Amjeris airport and heading to their main base and supply hub in Zurug town. These are videos sent to him by sources at the Chad-Sudan border. This one, he says, shows an arms delivery passing through the Adre crossing into West Darfur. There are no visible weapons or any identifiable branding. And these are land cruisers passing through the same crossing that he's told are painted in RSF colors and turned into lethal technicals. All of this, he says, is supplied by the United Arab Emirates. It's difficult to verify the location, destination, or contents of the vehicles in this footage, but UAE war machinery has been captured from the RSF during their deadly siege on North Darfur's capital, Al-Fashir. This video, shared after fierce battles outside the city, shows Sudanese state forces in front of burning armored vehicles. After comparing them to publicly available reference images, Sky News has determined the vehicles are designed by a UAE-based company. We presented the allegations in this report to the UAE's foreign ministry. This was their response. The UAE notes a marked increase in unfounded accusations and deliberate propaganda from the so-called Port Sudan Authority, one of the warring parties to the civil war, which actively undermines efforts to end the conflict and restore stability. We categorically reject any claims of providing any form of support to either warring party since the onset of the civil war, and condemn atrocities committed by both Port Sudan Authority and RSF. Publicly, the RSF has not acknowledged support from any external actors. But in an exclusive secret interview, an RSF intelligence officer from North Darfur confirms UAE support. When you speak to RSF fighters in the field, what are they telling you about the support that they're receiving from other countries?
In the beginning, it was the Russians, Wagner, and the state. Now, they say it is the UAE supporting the RSF. Many of the planes landing at Nyala are said to bring weapons from the UAE, and partially through the Amjaris airport in Chad.
Why do you think that the UAE supports the RSF? What's the mutual interest?
It's a financial relationship, no more. The RSF controls areas with large gold mines. Darfur alone has more than 4 or 5 gold mines, and the UAE is a gold trading hub.
After losing their 2-year grip on Sudan's capital,